The alien arena pulsed with an eerie, soundless rhythm, a dome of transparent alloy floating above a dying world. Beyond its curved glass stretched a wasteland of violet dust and fractured moons, a backdrop to the quiet humiliation of humankind. Captain Darius Venn stood alone in the center, his boots magnetized to the platform, his helmet reflecting the green shimmer of 1,000 alien eyes staring down from the gallery. Their whispers were psychic, not vocal, waves of disdain that pressed at the edges of his mind like static. Across from him stood Kareth, the Tral Dominion's champion marksman, tall and gleaming, his scaled armor flowing with bioluminescent veins. He moved with the casual grace of a predator certain of its kill. The weapon in his hands was alive, an organic gun that pulsed to his heartbeat, tendrils merging with his forearm as though it were part of his flesh. When Kareth smiled, it wasn't with warmth but with anatomical precision, a show of dominance sculpted for intimidation. "Show me human skill," the alien said, his voice translated through the dome's comms in a tone that seemed half amusement, half curiosity. Darius didn't answer. He studied the alien's posture, the faint tremor of confidence disguised as arrogance. He'd seen it before, in men who had never truly lost. Beneath his helmet, his jaw tightened. The faint smell of recycled air filled his lungs. His right hand rested lightly on the grip of his weapon, an ancient ballistic sidearm from Earth, black steel worn smooth by years of training. It looked primitive among the sleek alien technology, and that was the point. The crowd reacted to the sight of it, a telepathic ripple of derision sweeping through the dome. A slug thrower? Their thoughts echoed in collective disbelief. To them, it was an antique, a relic of brute mechanics, bullets instead of beams, combustion instead of plasma. But Darius had trained with it through gravity storms, through the tremors of collapsing stations, through nights when the only light was muzzle flash and burning sky. Every scratch on the weapon was a memory, every dent a failure survived. A low hum filled the dome as Kareth stepped forward. His weapon twitched like a serpent anticipating prey. He raised it in a smooth motion and fired. A flash of pure white energy lanced across the arena, tracing a flawless arc that shattered a crystalline target 100 meters away. The remains vaporized instantly, leaving only the scent of ozone. The precision was obscene, mathematical perfection rendered in light. The alien lowered his weapon with the poise of a performer expecting applause. The Tral spectators answered with a wave of psychic approval that pressed against Darius's skull like a headache. Kareth turned to him, one brow crest raised. "Your turn, human." For a moment, Darius said nothing. He glanced at the spot where the target had been, then back to Kareth. His visor reflected the alien's smug grin, the unspoken certainty that no human hand could match a Tral's engineered precision. He stepped forward until his boots clicked against the arena's central mark. His voice, when it came, was low, even. "You're proud of that?" Kareth tilted his head. "It was perfect." Darius nodded slowly. "That's the problem." The silence that followed felt alive. The alien crowd's whispers faltered, curiosity mingling with disdain. Darius drew his weapon from its holster, the motion unhurried. The sound of metal against polymer echoed sharply, a sound alien to the dome's sterile environment. The pistol was a thing of contrast. Black steel, human-made, primitive yet deliberate. He thumbed the safety, checked the chamber, and breathed once, deeply. In that breath lived years of practice, the discipline of countless failures refined into muscle memory. He remembered Colonel Marek's voice from long ago. "You can't teach accuracy, son. You earn it by missing 1,000 times first." He had missed plenty. On Mars, in the orbital trenches, and during the siege of Echelon, 9 when Kareth's kind had slaughtered his squad with invisible shots from beyond sensor range. Marek had been one of them. This wasn't just a demonstration. It was a reckoning. Darius raised the pistol. The gravity here was thinner than Earth's, the pull uncertain. His HUD displayed drift rates, microcurrents, temperature gradients, all useless noise. He ignored them. Data couldn't tell him how to breathe. It couldn't tell him how to feel the pause between heartbeats when the world stopped moving. The alien council above watched intently. They expected hesitation. They expected error. Darius adjusted his stance, left foot forward, shoulders loose. The weapon aligned with the faint glow where the next target formed, a hovering sphere of compressed light rotating in midair. He didn't fire. Not yet. Karatha's expression twitched. Do you need assistance calculating? Darius's voice came calm through the calm no. Just waiting for the right heartbeat. And then he fired. The report of the shot was a thunderclap in the vacuum-sealed dome, the sound transmitted through suit speakers in a jarring burst of violence. The recoil jolted up his arm, the slug tearing through the near-weightless air. To the alien sensors, it seemed erratic, chaotic, a projectile without guidance or control. But then it curved. The bullet rode the arena's shifting air currents, bending along an invisible arc that intersected perfectly with the target's core. The sphere of light imploded silently, collapsing into a single spark before fading from existence. No telepathic cheer followed. Only stunned silence. Karath blinked. The alien spectators struggled to process what they had witnessed. No Tral weapon relied on randomness, on instinct, on feel. What they had seen defied the arithmetic of precision. Darius lowered his pistol, smoke curling from the barrel. His breathing remained steady. You call it chaos, he said quietly. We call it intuition. Karatha's smirk faltered, his composure fracturing. Impossible, he muttered. You could not have predicted. I didn't, Darius cut in. I adapted. The alien's pupils flared, his neural weapon writhing in agitation. The hum of the dome intensified, the telepathic murmurs thickening with disbelief. For the first time, Karath looked uncertain, and that uncertainty thrilled Darius more than victory. He holstered his sidearm with mechanical calm. You said, show me human skill. That was it. Karath stared at him, silent. Darius turned toward the viewing gallery, where the alien council sat in cold, luminous thrones. Now, he said, voice sharp with the iron of defiance, let's see if your definition of perfection can evolve. The crowd did not respond. The silence lingered, tense and unresolved. Somewhere, deep in that psychic field, a new emotion surfaced, one the Tral had no word for. Curiosity. And as Darius stood beneath the alien light, smoke drifting from his weapon, he allowed himself the smallest, quietest smile. The first round was over, but the real duel, the one that would test what humanity truly meant, had only just begun. Darius stood alone in the debriefing chamber, its walls pulsing faintly with bioluminescent veins that seemed to breathe with the station itself. The Tral technology unnerved him. Everything here was alive in some way, grown, not built. His own reflection in the glass wall looked alien by contrast, a man of hard angles and scars among beings sculpted for grace. His helmet rested at his side, his fingers still twitching with the memory of the shot. The silence in the room was heavy, but beneath it, he could almost feel the distant murmur of alien thought, 1,000 minds struggling to understand what they had witnessed. He had hit the target. He had done more than that. He had humiliated their champion. Yet victory brought him no peace. The message from Earth Command had arrived minutes after the duel. Continue. Observe their response. Do not escalate. You represent more than yourself. It was a diplomatic way of saying don't start a war with your pride. Darius paced the narrow space. The dome's filtered light painted his uniform in shades of green and silver. He felt like a specimen, something dissected under glass. The Tral Council had postponed the next round, officially to evaluate procedural fairness, though he could feel their true intent, to dissect him, to analyze the unpredictable human factor that had disrupted their perfect equations. He sat at the edge of the transparent bench, the sidearm resting beside him. His hand brushed the weapon's cold steel, grounding him. The pistol had saved his life more times than he could count, yet it also carried ghosts. The last time he had used it before this contest, half his unit had been vaporized by a Tral sniper round. He could still hear their screams through the calm static, could still smell the ozone and burnt metal as the atmosphere cracked open above Mars Outpost Theta. Captain Venn, came the voice of his AI, Rook, from the calm embedded in his collar. Telemetry indicates your vitals are elevated. Adrenal output remains above standard rest level. Darius exhaled slowly. Yeah, well, winning isn't as relaxing as it looks. Rook's voice was smooth, synthetic, almost human now after years of learning his tone. They are afraid of you. He almost laughed. They should be. I'm afraid of me. The door irised open with a hiss of pressurized air, and Kareth entered, unescorted. The alien had shed his armor, his scaled skin shifting colors with his emotions, blue-green for control, streaks of amber betraying agitation. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Darius didn't rise. Kareth approached the opposite side of the room, stopping within a few feet of the human. The air between them felt charged. You should not have been able to do that, the alien said. His tone carried no accusation, only curiosity strained through disbelief. I've been told that before, Darius replied evenly. Kareth studied him for a long moment. Our calculations were perfect. Your reaction time is slower, your sensory range limited, your equipment obsolete. And yet, your projectile, he paused, searching for a word in his translator, defied statistical logic. Darius leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Maybe your statistics are wrong. Kareth's expression hardened. Our mathematics are absolute. Absolute, Darius said quietly, is just another word for lazy. The alien's pupils dilated, then contracted to narrow slits. Explain. Darius stood, holstering the pistol. You rely on perfection. You build for precision, predictability, control. But the universe doesn't care about your equations. It shifts, bends, corrupts. The wind changes, the target moves, the data lies. Humans survive because we don't expect the world to be perfect. We learn how to aim through the chaos. Kareth said nothing for several seconds. The light across his skin dimmed, the biological equivalent of contemplation. You speak as though imperfection is strength. Darius met his gaze. It is. You can't adapt if you believe you've already mastered everything. The alien took a slow breath, his chest plates flexing. Perhaps your people are dangerous not because of your weapons, but because of your uncertainty. Uncertainty keeps us alive, Darius said. It's the difference between instinct and arrogance. The silence that followed was strangely respectful. Kareth turned away, looking through the glass wall toward the arena beyond. The council demands a second round. They will design it to eliminate variables. There will be no environmental distortion, no wind, no interference. Only raw precision. Darius smiled faintly. In other words, they're building me a trap. Kareth's tone softened. You should refuse. You proved enough. Can't, Darius said, stepping closer. If I walk away, they'll say the first shot was luck. Humans don't get respect in this galaxy for winning once. Kareth regarded him with something like admiration, though he tried to hide it. Your defiance is inconvenient. Story of my life. The alien moved toward the door, but hesitated before leaving. When this is over, he said quietly, I wish to know how it feels. To trust chaos. Darius didn't answer. The door closed behind Kareth with a whisper, leaving the human alone again. He turned back to the glass wall and looked at his reflection. The man staring back seemed older than his years, tired eyes, jaw clenched from too many battles fought and lost. But beneath the exhaustion burned something steady. He wasn't fighting for medals or pride or even vengeance anymore. He was fighting for the idea that humans, flawed as they were, deserved to stand among the stars not because they were perfect, but because they never stopped improving. Rook's voice returned, softer now. Captain, the Council's parameters for the second trial have been uploaded. Probability of success, based on Tral metrics, 0.002%. Darius smirked. That's 0.002 more than zero. Sounds like odds worth taking. Would you like to simulate potential trajectories? He shook his head. No. I'll do it the old way. The old way. By feeling it. The AI fell silent, as if it, too, was learning the meaning of that word. Darius holstered his weapon, then turned toward the corridor that led back to his quarters. The hum of the station surrounded him, a living machine filled with alien judgment and curiosity. As he walked, he could feel the subtle vibrations through his boots, like the station itself was whispering. Somewhere beyond the walls, he knew the Tral scientists were already analyzing his shot, dissecting it frame by frame, searching for an algorithm that could replicate intuition. They would fail. He entered his quarters, dimly lit and sterile. A single viewport overlooked the broken moonscape below. He stood before it, hands clasped behind his back. In the reflection of the glass, the stars stretched like scattered shrapnel, distant and unreachable. He wondered if Merrick would have been proud, or if he'd just laugh at the irony of a soldier from a backwater planet teaching aliens about accuracy. Either way, Darius intended to finish what he started. He set the pistol on the table, dismantling it piece by piece, polishing each component until it gleamed in the artificial light. The ritual steadied him, quieted the tremor of doubt in his chest. When he reassembled it, he pressed the barrel lightly against his palm, feeling the cold metal bite into skin. The pain was sharp, grounding. "You and me again," he murmured. "Let's show them what imperfect can do." Outside, the stars flickered as if in agreement. T backslash, 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 backslash. The arena had changed. The living dome had been stripped of its atmospheric imperfections, its temperature fixed, gravity stabilized, and every potential variable neutralized. Even the faint hum of Tral telepathy was muted to prevent psychic interference. It was sterile, flawless, an environment sculpted for one purpose: to prove that chaos could not win twice. Darius Venn stood at the center of that perfection, the weight of silence pressing on him harder than any gravity field ever could. Across from him, Kareth waited. His expression was unreadable now, no smirk, no arrogance, only a stillness that might have been respect or calculation. The alien's living rifle pulsed faintly, synchronized with his heartbeat. Darius caught himself wondering if Kareth's heart was faster than before. The alien council loomed above them, their forms ghostly in the refracted light. The eldest among them spoke in a chorus of minds that vibrated through the dome. Second trial. Precision under control. No wind. No motion. No distortion. The measure of accuracy untainted by chance. Darius's pistol felt heavier this time. He could sense the eyes of the galaxy on him. Not just the Tral, but the human diplomats watching from the orbiting relay, praying he wouldn't embarrass their species. He flexed his fingers, inhaled slowly, and tried to quiet the thrum of adrenaline beneath his ribs. Kareth raised his weapon first. The alien's movements were liquid, practiced, flawless. He didn't need to think. The rifle was part of him, an extension of evolved perfection. A low vibration built through the dome, then the weapon fired, a line of light so precise it seemed preordained. The beam struck the microscopic center of the target sphere, vaporizing it without residue. Even the alien spectators didn't react this time. There was nothing left to admire. Perfection had become predictable. Kareth turned toward Darius. "This is the end of it. Your chaos has no purchase here." Darius studied him in silence. He didn't bother arguing. Words wouldn't mean anything now. He stepped forward, each footfall deliberate, his boots clicking against the cold metallic floor. The air felt denser somehow, as if the dome itself were holding its breath. He reached the firing mark and raised his weapon. No wind, no interference, no flaws to exploit. That was the challenge. He wasn't fighting Kareth anymore. He was fighting the very idea of perfection itself. "Captain," Rook's voice murmured faintly through his suit. "Environmental analysis confirms 0 deviations. Predictive algorithms estimate success probability at—" "Don't tell me," Darius interrupted softly. "You'll just ruin the surprise." He focused on the target, a luminous sphere floating 50 meters ahead, completely still. The readout on his visor displayed every measurable factor: distance, light refraction, temperature, all static. There was no data to manipulate, no fluctuation to anticipate. He'd been stripped of the one thing that made him human: adaptability. And that was when he realized the truth. He didn't need the world to shift. He just needed to shift himself. He exhaled, the sound steady through his comms. Every muscle in his arm relaxed until the pistol seemed to balance in his hand by its own will. His heartbeat slowed. The chamber, the spectators, even the faint glimmer of Kareth's eyes, all dissolved into a blur of stillness. There was only the gun, his breath, and the space between him and the target. He pulled the trigger. The sound tore through the sterile silence, a raw, human violence that didn't belong in this engineered place. The bullet left the barrel, a crude metal slug cutting through air that wasn't meant to exist. For a fraction of a second, it seemed off course. Too low, too slow. Then the dome shuddered. A vibration, imperceptible to the Tral sensors, but not to Darius's instincts, rippled through the station. Somewhere, deep within the structure's organic walls, a reactor pulse synchronized with the station's circulatory systems. That pulse created a momentary fluctuation in air density, a ripple of pressure moving through the dome like a heartbeat. And the bullet rode it. The round curved upward, aligning perfectly with the target's core. When it struck, it didn't just destroy the sphere. It split it, bisecting light with matter in a way no energy beam could have done. The target dissolved into a silent explosion of photonic mist that scattered like falling snow. For several seconds, there was no reaction. The Tral sensors recalibrated, disbelieving their own data. Kareth's eyes widened, his weapon trembling slightly in his hands as if it, too, couldn't comprehend the outcome. Darius lowered his pistol, the barrel still faintly smoking. "You built a perfect world," he said, voice low but sharp. "You thought that would stop me. But perfection doesn't exist. There's always a heartbeat, always a breath, always something alive that refuses to stay still." Kareth took a step forward, his expression torn between fury and awe. "You exploited a vibration in the dome's bioreactor cycle. That fluctuation was below sensory threshold. You felt it." Darius nodded once. "Didn't feel it. I listened for it." A murmur rippled through the telepathic network, shock, disbelief, grudging admiration. The council's eldest form leaned forward, their glowing tendrils dimming. "You claim intuition where there is only noise." "Call it what you want," Darius replied. "We call it being human." Kareth's rifle detached from his arm, slithering to the floor like a dying thing. The alien looked at his hands, then back at Darius. "You changed the outcome, without changing the conditions. That should be impossible." That's what they said about flight, about fire, about everything we ever did that scared the universe. The alien's composure cracked. He laughed, a sound that startled even his own kind, harsh and unfamiliar. "You're dangerous," he said softly. "Not dangerous," Darius answered. "Just unpredictable." The council conferred silently, their minds flickering like lightning in fog. Then the eldest spoke again, their collective tone subdued. "The human has surpassed the Dominion standard. His accuracy exceeds our calibration limit." The trial concludes. A wave of psychic noise spread through the arena, some voices protesting, others accepting. Darius could feel their confusion pressing against his consciousness like static. He wanted to leave, to escape the scrutiny, but Kareth stepped forward once more. "You've proven your kind can match us," the alien said. "But tell me, human, when perfection bends, what remains?" Darius met his gaze. The will to keep aiming. Kareth lowered his head slightly, an alien bow. "Then perhaps you've earned your chaos." The alien council dissolved from sight, their forms fading into mist. The dome lights dimmed, and the vibration beneath Darius's feet softened to a hum. The silence that followed wasn't contempt anymore, it was respect, the kind that could only be born from understanding an enemy you could no longer underestimate. Darius holstered his weapon and turned toward the exit. He didn't feel triumphant, only steady. The duel hadn't been about dominance, it had been about identity. Humanity had no perfect weapons, no living technology, no telepathic networks, but it had something the Tral could never replicate, the instinct to trust imperfection. As he walked toward the chamber door, Rook's voice broke the quiet. Captain, congratulations. Galactic communication channels report an unprecedented response. Humans are now classified as Category Alpha species by DOM. The silence after the second trial lingered long after the audience dispersed, a silence so complete it felt like gravity itself had paused to listen. The Tral station drifted above the fractured moon, lights dimmed to a soft bioluminescent pulse that traced along its curved walls like veins carrying thought. Darius Venn stood before the viewport of his quarters, the pistol resting beside him on a narrow ledge. Beyond the glass, the stars burned faintly, cold and uncaring. His reflection in the window looked like a ghost, tired eyes, unshaven jaw, the faint tremor in his hand betraying the toll of control. He had won, but victory in alien territory felt less like triumph and more like exposure. The door behind him opened with a soundless motion, and Kareth stepped inside without invitation. The alien no longer wore his battle armor. His body shimmered in hues of pale blue and soft gold, the colors of humility in Tral custom. Darius didn't turn. "If you're here to challenge me again, you'll have to wait," he said quietly. "My trigger finger's on leave." "I'm not here to challenge," Kareth replied. His voice carried none of the arrogance it once had. "The Council has recognized your species' distinct capacity for adaptation. Humanity has been offered provisional alliance status within the Dominion Concord." Darius gave a short, humorless chuckle. "Provisional? That means we're tolerated, not trusted." Kareth approached, his movements deliberate, each step producing a faint ripple in the floor's living surface. Trust takes time, even for those who redefine the meaning of precision. He stopped beside the viewport, his reflection merging with Darius's in the glass. "When you fired, I thought you acted without calculation. But now I see, you calculated something we could not perceive. You didn't adapt to chaos, you used it." Darius folded his arms. "We don't control chaos. We make peace with it. You can't teach that to a machine mind or a species that fears mistakes." The alien's bioluminescent patterns flickered thoughtfully. "You've given my people something we don't understand, a flaw we must now study." "That's what you'll call it," Darius murmured. "A flaw." He turned to face him. "But to us, it's instinct. Imperfection that learns." For a long moment, neither spoke. The distant hum of the station filled the silence, like a heartbeat stretched across miles of living metal. Kareth finally broke the quiet. "When I first saw you, I thought humanity was fragile, too emotional to survive the cold arithmetic of the stars. Now I believe emotion is your weapon. It's the only one we've got that can't be copied." Kareth inclined his head slightly, the Tral equivalent of respect. "Then perhaps we have more to learn than you do." Darius studied him, searching for any trace of condescension, but there was none. Only curiosity, the kind that had built civilizations and destroyed them alike. "Careful," Darius said. "Curiosity's dangerous. That's how humans end up changing things." The alien smiled faintly, a rare and unsettling expression on his features. "Perhaps that is why the universe endures you." Darius almost smiled back. "Or why it tries so hard not to." Kareth stepped closer to the window, the stars painting his scaled skin in silver light. "The Council wishes for you to instruct our marksmen, to teach them your intuition." He raised an eyebrow. "You want me to train aliens to think like humans?" "To feel like humans," Kareth corrected softly. "To know uncertainty." Darius shook his head, picking up his pistol and spinning it once before setting it down again. "You can't program instinct. You can't download fear, or regret, or luck. You have to live it, bleed for it." Kareth regarded him steadily. "Then perhaps we start with that truth." The simplicity of the statement silenced him. There was something almost noble in the alien's sincerity, a strange humility that hadn't existed before their duel. Darius found himself nodding slowly. "Maybe. But if I teach you, it won't be easy." Karetha's eyes glimmered faintly. "Ease is for the complacent." They stood side by side for a moment longer, watching as a human shuttle detached from the orbiting diplomatic ship and began its descent toward the Tral station. Its thrusters burned white against the dark, fragile as a match flame. "That your people coming to celebrate you?"
Kareth asked.
Darius shook his head. "They'll celebrate the win."
Not me.
No one likes a soldier who reminds them that peace was bought with a gun. "Then perhaps you remind them of something better," the alien said. "That precision can be more than violence." He looked at Kareth, searching for irony, but found none. The alien meant it. "Maybe one day," Darius said. "But for now, we just make sure no one forgets who pulled the trigger." Kareth extended his hand, a gesture of alliance unfamiliar but unmistakable. Darius hesitated only a second before clasping it. The alien skin was warm, textured like living stone. The contact carried no psychic hum, no translation of thought, just the simple, grounding truth of touch. When Kareth left, the chamber felt emptier than before. Darius sat back against the viewport, running his thumb along the pistol's grip. The weapon had defined him once. Now it felt like a relic of something smaller than what he'd become. The galaxy would write this duel into history, no doubt twisting it into legend. But to him, it wasn't legend. It was a reminder of failure, persistence, and the human need to prove worth through struggle. Rook's voice emerged softly through the room. "Captain, Command requests a debrief within the hour. They ask for a tactical breakdown of how you achieved your second shot." Darius sighed. "Tell them the truth." "The truth, sir?"
"Yeah."
"Tell them I didn't." A pause. Then, acknowledged. He looked once more at the stars, their pale light flickering across his face. Somewhere out there, 1,000 civilizations were recalibrating their understanding of what it meant to be accurate, to be intelligent, to be alive. And humanity, small, flawed, reckless humanity, had reminded them that perfection was not the goal. Survival was. Evolution was. He holstered the pistol one last time, its weight familiar and final. "Rook," he said, "pull up coordinates for Earth." Plotting course. The ship's engines hummed faintly beneath him, a low vibration that felt like a heartbeat. He watched as the fractured moonscape shrank below, then turned to a pale sliver against the void. Kareth's words lingered in his mind. "Emotion is your weapon." Maybe that was true. Or maybe humanity's weapon was something simpler, the refusal to stop aiming, even when the odds were impossible. As the ship accelerated toward the stars, Darius closed his eyes. The last image burned into his mind was not the target shattering or the alien shock, but the split second before the shot, the stillness, the breath, the perfect imperfection that had changed everything. He smiled faintly. Somewhere out there, someone would challenge him again. And when they did, he'd be ready, not because he trusted precision, but because he trusted the chaos that made him human.